A very good afternoon to everyone. We welcome you all to YFLO's yet another interactive session, Women Leading the Future of India by Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla. We thank you all for making it for our event today. As we proceed, I request everyone to put their phones on silent. We will begin the event by playing our national anthem, and I request everyone to please stand up for the same. Our young floor chairperson, Ms. Samia Alam Khan, and our guest speaker, Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla, to kindly come and grace the stage, please. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Now, Ms. Sandhya Raju, our vice chair, would present the plant to our guest, Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla.
Our guest of honor, Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla, dear past chairpersons, governing board members, and my dear fellow members. It is lovely to see a packed house this afternoon to hear our guest speak. Kavitha ji, please accept my sincere gratitude for accepting our invitation and being here. Women of today are indeed very different from the generations before. They are living their truth, voicing their thoughts, nurturing an inner vitality, are ambitious and unafraid to dream and achieve. Though the society at large, both at home and office, has not made the path of a woman's destiny easy, and yet she manages without compromising on her larger objective of life and dreams. The difficulties in the form of systemic challenges and cultural barriers are present in various hues and forms across all levels: gender stereotyping and biases, political inequality, disparities in pay packages, lack of women's safety, all come in the way of a woman's journey to achieve and excel. We know and have seen that a woman needs to work twice as hard to achieve the same degree of success as the opposite gender. No country or state can ever become self-assured, democratic and free society if it cannot equip and empower their women to be fearless, liberated, free-thinking and ambitious leaders, because they are the ones who show every society its mirrors. Yet we are optimistic that this is the century of the superwoman and that they will make a telling and impactful difference in times to come. I do believe we, the women of this country, have to be the agents of this change and the drivers of this moment. We have to become evangelists of our own destiny. Over the last couple of decades, we have taken some positive steps and made good in the right direction. All the remarkable women in this room and our chief guest in particular are living proofs of this change. Yet this is not enough. We have a lot of work to do. Now may I call upon our esteemed guest, Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla, to show us the way and tell us how. Before she enlightens us with her experiences, let me take this opportunity to introduce our chief guest to this august audience. Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla is an engineer by profession and a social activist by choice and belief. She holds a master's in engineering from the University of South Mississippi, USA. As we all know, Ms. Kavitha is a member of parliament at the Lok Sabha and daughter of Sri K. Chandrasekhar Rao, Chief Minister of Telangana. Yes, but she has a very dynamic identity of her own, who has made a substantive mark as a woman achiever. The multifaceted Kavitha ji is known to be very fond of arts and culture. Keen on making a difference in cultural, sports and youth affairs, she has been helping nurture budding sportsmen and women in the last few years. She heads the Indian chapter of the International Delphic Council, a very prestigious organization that unites people through sports, arts and culture. She also writes for national and international journals and blogs regularly. As the founder of President of Telangana Jagruti, she works for uplifting the poor and underprivileged in the Telangana region. She is also the founder convener of Forum of Democratic and Constitutional Rights of Telangana. Her focus, though, is centered on women's empowerment, girl-child education, and health.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I would like to thank the Hyderabad chapter of Young FICCI Ladies Organization, and especially the chairperson, Ms. Samia Alam Khan, for having invited me to this interactive session. Also, I would like to thank my dear friend, Ajwala Gutta, for making the connect happen, and I feel greatly honored to be here. To begin with, I believe the topic that you have given me today is not an easy one. Although we might say many more things about women leading the country, women, being forward or whatever, we still do have our own issues. And how do we solve these issues? In general, I try and look at any issue from the perspective of what has happened in the past, what is our present, and how do we face it in the future. In the same light, if we try and look at this issue, as an Indian woman and a strong admirer of our mythology, I believe that Indian women stands apart from the rest of the women in the world. We have a certain quality which I believe is lacking in every other woman of the world. And I believe that this quality that we have is inherited by our most celebrated Panchakanyas of our mythology, that is Draupadi, Sita, Mandodari, Tara and Ahalya. Most of our mythological women characters are very strong, opinionated, and all of them have multifaceted personalities. And particularly what we call the Panchabhutas, the earth, fire, water, wind and space. An Indian woman is supposed to be the embodiment of all these 5 elements. We are very strong, very solid, very dependent like Mother Earth. We are very passionate like fire. We are of course very calm and serene like water. And we are very free-spirited like a wind. And we are also like space, full of mystery. So an Indian woman, I believe, is a combination of all these elements. And because we have so many elements mixed with us, we somehow are different from every other woman of the world. And because we have all these elements in our personality, we try and find a balance between the modern world and also the orthodox world. I mean, we have to attend a cocktail party today evening. Tomorrow evening, we have to go home and do a Karwa Chauth. We managed to do both of them very equally and very efficiently. We managed to strike a balance between our modern world and also a very patriarchal world, which has a lot of restrictions on the women in particular. And this balance and this particular element of our own identity, if we can teach to the world, if we can show the world how you can strike a balance, I believe women of India can not only lead India, but we can lead the world also. Particularly, we've all been around the world, we've all seen many women. We've seen them having either of the qualities, but they're not like us, very mixed, very, very balanced. So that balance, if we can bring, I'm sure we can lead the world one day. And particularly India today, when we speak about the present scenario, India today is home to about 586 million women. This is 17% of the world population. And we are home to 173 million women who are below age 15. That means 20% of the world's young population is in India. So any change in the lives of these women, both young and otherwise, socially or economically, is bound to have a great impact not only on India, but also on the world at large. So once we understand this fact, we do know as powerful, successful women sitting in this room, why is it essential to make a change in the lives of Indian women? Because we are going to make a change in the world at large. Particularly, we would like to, if we can, ponder upon the education segment of the women. Between 1981 and 2011, women's literacy in India was about 30%, but now it is about 65.5%. And in 1990, only 60% of 21-year-old women were literate, whereas in 2011, it grew up to 85%. And 2011 census particularly has become a landmark, because in that census, women outnumbered the male in the literacy rate, which is very unique and very different in a country like India, where women rising above men is a rare occasion. And when we look at the world institutions, all these elite institutions like Harvard, Oxford, and many more institutions like that, usually it was the men topping in terms of getting graduation or the degrees. But today, 58% of world's college degrees are taken by the women. So we are not only here, world over, cutting across and rising above a certain standard. And also in terms of economy, because most of you are businesswomen here, you will know that the women are dominating today's industries, particularly in the fields like healthcare, education, personal services. And also in every 5 small businesses that are opening across the world, 2 are opened by women, which is a considerable change compared to a lot of countries, especially the Asian countries, which are a little bit more restrictive on women. And women today, you know, particularly Indian women, are not no more spectators of the success, but they are achievers of it. And they are no more looked at dubiously when the house is not in order. You know, once or twice if an Indian woman says, "Yaar chalo aaj bahar khana khate hai," it is not a taboo anymore. You know, they go out, they try and give some breathing space for women. So there is a visible change in the lower segment, middle class, and also the upper middle class of the society. And also particularly, women today have started to seed, tend and grow their own careers. It is no more like, you know, papa ne bataya mujhe ki main computer engineer karna chahiye, so I'm doing it. It is not like that. Women today, youngsters today are trying to identify what they are really passionate about and trying to do it and see to it that they are successful in it. Particularly when women take their success in their own hands and women take the ownership of their achievements, I'm sure there is no limit and nobody can stop her. And women, we have seen many women have stamped and left their imprints in all the sectors in which were previously bridled and which were previously considered to be very orthodox patriarchy kind of a business. Like I would say now Ms. Chanda Kochar is heading ICICI Bank. Heading a bank was not supposed to be a woman's job like 5 or 10 years back. Now we are venturing into various fields which were only like the men's hub. All these women, we all know, wherever they are now, wherever all of you are now, we have traveled through different routes. But then some might have, you know, climbed the traditional corporate ladder, some starting and running their own businesses, like Kiran Mazumdar Shah. She had no background, but she started a business on her own and she came up in life. And lot many more, like in bureaucracy, we see many Indian Foreign Service officers today. We see many IAS, IPS officers today. And many more who did not have any kind of background also made it into politics and also in social service. No matter whatever the course, there is only one thing common among all of these women. Each one of these women cultivated her own success. Around the world, today women are breaking ground and India definitely is no exception. Particularly, the Indian women are no longer treated as showpieces to be kept at home. They are also enjoying the impact of globalization and making an influence not only on the domestic but also on the international sphere. Particularly names like Naina Lal Kidwai. She was the first woman to graduate from the Harvard Business School, and Kiran, we have of course spoke about her. And also Neelam Dhawan, who is right now the Managing Director of Microsoft India, and also our very own Preeta Reddy, who is the Managing Director of Apollo Hospitals. You know, these women are only some names which adorn the embellishment of, you know, this success story. And also around the world, there are many women entrepreneurs who are incredibly rising in leadership and participatory roles. Particularly with the advent and surge of e-commerce industry in India, women have also ventured into the internet business. There is a $2 million e-commerce business that happens in India, out of which $511 million is a women influence sale that had happened last year. And this is not because we just like to shop, of course we like to shop, but this is because women today have a decision making ability. They are in a situation where they can decide what they want for their homes. Earlier it was a man who used to select which TV I should buy, but now today a woman goes online, compares 5-6 LCDs or flat screen televisions, and she decides what she wants for her home. So that made a visible change in the e-commerce industry also. I would like to bring to your notice that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar once said, "I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which women have achieved." So our community from that measure definitely has made a very good change, and now we see women in all kinds of roles, both as investors, innovators, analysts, journalists, and more in the forefront. And it definitely is not an overrated statement when I tell all of you that when the world was going through a recession, both in 1999 and 2000, or also again in 2007 and 2008, India did not suffer as much. And why did our country not suffer as much as US or some other European countries have suffered? Because Indian women saved their money. Indian women saved money in the banks, and those small savings have really strengthened our public sector and private sector banks. Because of those savings, twice world was going through a very bad recession, but India could come out. But nobody recognizes this. In fact, I was in UK for a leadership program attending there. I had asked the Financial Times editor, how much do you even report about Indian women? He said, yeah, we wrote about the Nirbhaya incident. I said, not about Nirbhaya incident. You know, crime on women is a world over phenomenon. You write about Nirbhaya incident and the sensational issues. But what about this unique phenomena where Indian women showed an amazing strength and saved our country from complete depression? He was surprised. He said, we do not get this kind of news from your country at all. So we are trying to, as politicians, as leaders, as people who also have this opportunity to go out, trying to build those bridges and make sure that the reputation of the Indian women also shines abroad. Definitely there are many more sad stories. I would like to share this one particular story, actually two. One is about a rich girl who was again married into a very rich and so-called educated family. She was married to the younger son. And of course, when she was married, they said, you know, you can't continue your studies. So she dropped out of college without any questions. And then after a couple of years, she had this good idea. They said, no, either one of the family, nor the parents, nor the in-laws, they supported her. Because parents, of course, gave a lot of money in dowry. They said, you know, we can't give you any more seed capital. But the in-laws were not willing to do that either. Fine, she put up with that and she dropped that idea. And meanwhile, she got pregnant. Of course, she got busy with taking care of the kids. She bore 2 sons eventually, after 4 or 5 years of the marriage. But one fine day, nobody expected this to happen. But one fine day at the dinner table, the father-in-law suddenly rules. He announces, he passes a diktat. He says, you know, since my elder son doesn't have any children and you have 2 children, your youngest son from today will be called the other son's child. She was shocked. She said, what? This is a real story. Because the woman came running to me. I am sharing it. I can't, of course, say the name. She resisted. She tried to protest. She did everything that she could do. But very sad, till date, that young boy calls her Masi, and he calls the other lady the mother. And the whole family, nicely, happily, so-called rich, educated family, pretends as if this is the child of the younger son, not the elder son, not the younger son. And she has unfortunately compromised with the fate, and she is just going on continuing with her life. I mean, this is a story of a proper upper middle class, very comfortably educated, wealthy family. So a woman can't take a call in such a situation also. And of course, the other story I wanted to share with you was the Nirbhaya story. All of us knew it really pierced the consciousness of the entire nation to the brutality that the women had to go through. And all of us stood by her. Everybody hit the streets. We changed the laws. We did many things to do. But then of course I still remember those weird looking nerdy fellows who came on television and said, अरे इतने रात को क्यों बाहर गई वो लड़की, एक लड़का साथ में था, कौन था, क्यों गए? Nobody cared to ask कि what was the safety measures, why didn't the cop stop, or when she was thrown out of the bus, nobody asked it, why didn't anybody take care of her? But everybody started asking, लड़की क्यों बाहर गई, क्या पहन रही थी? I mean, you know, these kind of incidents when we see powerful women like you being successful in an Indian society, we feel good and proud. At the same time, when we hear stories like that, it brings to the consciousness of all of us that there is a stark reality that is out there and we need to somehow change that. I mean, there is simply too much inequality between various sections of women in our country. And when I say leadership, because today's topic is leadership, when I say leadership, women leadership might sound very different to me, and it might sound very different to the lady who had to lose her son to her brother-in-law, and it might sound way too different to Nirbhaya's mother. She might say, what leadership? Why leadership when you don't have a basic security? I mean, it is a very relative term, I would say. And particularly in many countries today we see, I've been to Middle East and Dubai of late, there are women who are fighting for their driving rights. I mean, they are not allowed to drive in their own country, so they are fighting for that. Whereas we are very lucky, we don't have such restrictions. But there are again 14 today out of the 192 recognized countries, 14 democratically elected governments led by women. Today, entire Europe's future depends on the Germany Chancellor Angela Merkel. And we also know Brazil, which is the sixth biggest nation, is led by a women leader. And in India, of course, we've had a long history starting from Annie Besant to Indira Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Jayalalitha, Mamata Banerjee. You know, we have a long list of women leaders. And of course, one unique feature, I wanted to bring it to your notice, to all of your notice. Nowhere in the world, there is reservation for local bodies for women representatives. In our country, starting from the Sarpanch to the MPTC to the ZPTC to the Zilla Parishad chairman, we have a 50% reservation across the country. But that is a different story, that the women gets elected and only the man comes out to do the rest of the job, which is a different story. Because when I go to a meeting, some fellow will come to me and introduce himself as, Madam, मैं ये गाँव का सरपंच हूँ. I'm like, नहीं, वहाँ तो lady है. तो बोलते हैं, हाँ, मैं उसका पति हूँ. तो we have simply coined a terminology. Sarpanch Pati is a new word, now will be added to the dictionary in Indian language. And also in towns, you know, there are corporators. In my Nizamabad constituency town, there are 10-15 women corporators. And of course, women don't come, only the man comes. And we call him CM. And CM is Corporator Mogudu. So that is how we are trying to put them on an official protocol. And we try and, you know, this is a little discouraging when you hear it in the beginning. But of course, these reservations will eventually bring out more women. That is the hope. And with today's government, I really hope that the Parliament also passes the bill of 33% women reservation. And FICCI also should join with all of us to fight. Are you going to join? Yeah? and of course, Sarpanch Patis, CMs we always see, but hoping that someday this will all change. And it is interesting, I was actually watching an ad the other day, I just wanted to bring to your notice, where there are two elderly women sitting and talking, and they are looking at their bahu who is, you know, busy getting ready to go out and all. So the Sasuma says, I'm really proud my daughter-in-law earns more than my son, you know, we could not do it in our zamana, to aisa ho hi nahi sakta tha. Itne mein, of course, Patidev aate hai, bolte hai, why didn't you wash my green shirt? You know, then everybody comes to reality and three women are just staring at each other, you know. I mean, equality is only a term that we find on papers or books or, you know, in those fancy meetings that we go to. But in reality, I don't think, we are still maybe a little too far away from that. But don't misunderstand me here. I don't say that when women leadership needs to be groomed or nurtured or promoted, I don't mean to say that we should banish all the men to hell. We'll need them for some uninteresting jobs like, you know, carrying our bags or whatever. So we'll need the men to be still around. But then we have to, you know, have groom women leadership. And here I would really like to borrow the Abraham Lincoln's words. He says, you cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. If you have to strengthen the weak, It doesn't mean that you have to weaken the strongest person, but you only have to add more strength to the weak person. That is the women in this case, the women leadership in this case. And as I already mentioned, women leadership is not only representing a constituency in the parliament, it is not only leading a factory, leading an institution, but it is basically about being able to lead one's own life with their own choices. I mean, बचपन से शुरू हो जाता है, we all know, and it's prevalent in the middle class and lower middle class also. Don't play football like boys, you know, don't go out, don't wear short skirts, and don't choose civil engineering. Girls are supposed to do computer engineering. And starting from that young age, we teach girls to be, you know, don't be bossy, don't be loud, don't do this, don't do that. I mean, being bossy, what is wrong with being bossy? You are bossy today, you will be a leader tomorrow. You'll have to have a free mind, you'll have to have a free mind where you can really think, understand and express yourself boldly. We don't do that from the very young age. So how do we tomorrow expect the women to come out and lead? And particularly we see this very often, and the discrimination very openly we see when a woman gets pregnant. In India and worldwide, women do not have a choice to decide if she wants to have a child or not. When it is a girl child, they say get it aborted. She doesn't have a choice if she wants to bear a girl. And if it is a boy also, if she thinks it's too early to have a child, she can't decide. It is decided mainly by the family, not even by the husband. Surprisingly, he has no role at all. I mean, in the Indian society at least. And afterwards, you all know, naming the kids, मेरे परदादा के नाम रखो इसको, you know, I don't have a choice to even choose my son's name. Where am I? So wherever you see leadership in women, I would say all of us today together should definitely work on grooming leaders, no doubt. But the leadership is different for different classes. So we all should kindly face that and probably work towards nurturing the women's relationship. And how do we do that? When it comes to the futuristic question, when it comes to organizations like us, responsible people like us, how do we do that? Education is the basic way. Because when you are educated, you do not fear. You try and understand what the problem is. When you understand a problem, you look for solutions. When you don't understand a problem, then you probably will be feared and you can't take a right decision. And of course, all of us here are very privileged. We can help in girl-child education. We can give more impetus to that. We can help the governments to achieve that. And of course, after the education is completed, we all know a woman who completes her education, if she wants to start her own small little business, she'll need mentors, she'll need a lot of help. And organizations like FICCI can play a major role in that. I mean, when we can give them some financial independence, definitely it is going to make a lot of change. And well, this is all a different question. How do we create a leader? How do we nurture the leadership? But one major question is, do we really need women leaders? What change will it make to the country or to the world? Is that really sensible to have more women leaders? Do you think we should have more women leaders? Yeah, I think so too. Because there is a fundamental difference between how a man approaches a problem and how a woman approaches a problem. When a fundamental difference like women talking about goals, I might have a certain goal. I want to develop my constituency, yes. But I also want to develop it with certain values. In a women's approach, there are goals, but there are also values. And in a women's approach, there is a process and also a process of learning from the process itself. We do not bypass anything. We do not go do some things in a hurry. Women's approach is totally different. As a woman, as a mother, when I have to handle two fighting adolescent boys, I know I better sit down, listen to both of them, understand and then come to a conclusion. Whereas the father only gets to rule. He says, shut up and sit. But I can't do that. So women's and men's approaches are totally different. When there is a problem in my constituency, I approach it with more sensitivity. I approach it with a more holistic approach, not just a rule, this is what is to be done. As a result, in organizations, in politics, in life, women are better leaders. So if we get this feminine approach to the world, if we give this feminine dimension to the leadership of this world, imagine a situation, there will be no wars. It is not me saying, it is Napoleon Bonaparte who says, if a woman sees the war field, so many dead bodies, such gruesome scenario, there will be no wars. She will not let her husband go out and fight the war. She will not let her son join the soldiers. So he says, let no woman come to the war field. So when a woman goes into the leadership positions, she doesn't want violence. She'll look out for areas where she can sort it out with discussions. These are many areas. I totally strongly believe that it is not only increasing more number of women leadership, but it is to bring the femininity out of a male leader. If he can be more sensitive towards ruling the country, ruling the nations, I believe there will be a lot of change. And of course, all of us know that a vision without action is a daydream. So how can all of us, privileged section, help our fellow women? As I already mentioned, one is education, two is trying to be with our women when they want to do something, maybe adopting 2, 3, 4 small-time business women and giving them your mentorship. Maybe when somebody complains to you about domestic violence, take them a little more seriously, because we do that all the time. Many people come to us. Sometimes I see my own leaders saying, एम कादू सदुक पो, कुछ नहीं होता, अभी के लिए चुप हो जाओ आप, बाद में देखते हैं 6 महीने के बाद शी इज़ ऑलरेडी डेड. So when somebody complains to us about domestic violence or some serious abuse from the in-laws family, we should probably take it very seriously. And the other one, of course, the sexual assault on women is there everywhere throughout the world. It is in our country as well. Whenever any incident like that happens, as we all stood up for Nirbhaya, I hope we'll all also stand up for any women who faces such abuse. One interesting thing that I wanted to tell you was, we are all very sensitive. We stand up for our friends. A strong woman stands up for herself, but a powerful woman stands up for everyone else. And this room, I'm sure, is filled with a lot of powerful women. And I really hope all of you will stand up for the society. And of course, women leadership, definitely yes. And also, I want to certainly mention one thing or two about the new industrial policy that the state has taken up. It is a very interesting policy, innovative policy. It is like one of its kind nowhere else in the country. So I really want all of you to go through it. And also, many women are there. And I have a privilege to be the only woman member of parliament from our state, Telangana. So I would sincerely request all of you to come and invest in Nizamabad. And I'll certainly take care of you. And maybe we can do something like a women cluster or something in Nizamabad, where we develop more and more women entrepreneurs and work towards it. And continuously, I assure you of all possible help and support in your endeavors from the state of Telangana and the state government. And I wish each and every one of you all the very best. God bless you. Thank you. Jai Telangana, Jai Hind.
It's a very good insight of what you have given about the women leading the future of India. The first question I would like to ask is that why aren't any women in the present cabinet of Mr. KCR?
Definitely, it is a very, very truthful thing that there is no women in the cabinet of Telangana government today, and very unfortunate and very sad, I would say. But when it comes to deciding cabinet ministers or MLA posts or positions, today politics rule, and a factor of winnability, a factor of community, caste, everything also plays a role. So while selecting the members of cabinets, it was a smaller cabinet. It was not as a bigger one as earlier governments. Only 18 of them were to be selected as per the constitution. And unfortunately, we could not fit in many women in there. But a very sad situation, I would say. And I am also with you on your side, questioning the government in that sense.
Hopefully very soon in the future.
I hope so too.
You can't take women, bossy women. And that obviously becomes a problem when you want to succeed. You need to have your male counterparts liking you. That's very important. So how do you deal with that?
See, we like our boss or not, we just have to follow them, So being bossy in a very subtle way, we all can do that. We know when we want to get something done, we make sure our male counterparts obey us in some or the other very sensitive way. That is an art that all the women have. But I was particularly talking about the young girls. At a very young age, somehow in Indian society, we don't allow our young girls to be very loud and opinionated and being very bold. That is what I meant. And particularly being bossy when you grow up and when you're with your partner, I'm sure you'll find a lot of different ways.
Most of the times I've seen with elders around, if you give your opinion or say no about something, so you get a tag of being argumentative, a person who back answers, and everywhere, with your relatives around, you get that tag and you have to roam around with that tag all your life, So how do you deal with such a situation? Because though you're not a bad person, but everybody, thinks that, oh my God, she's a big back answering kind of a person or like a weird girl, So that is such a difficult situation I think most of us are facing nowadays.
Yeah, true. As I've already mentioned, Indian society somehow doesn't want women to question anything. Just because they can't answer our questions, they'll start tagging you or naming you something and they'll dismiss you in that guise, basically. That is what they try to do. But I think we should really stick to our ground when we believe in some issue. And being argumentative, I don't think is a bad thing at all. Times are changing and many women now are getting a voice both in families and in corporate worlds and outside in politics also. So I believe we should just stick to our ground and do whatever we feel is right once we believe in whatever is right. Definitely. The industrial policy of the Telangana state government is very unique in a way. We've made right to get permissions as a right. I mean, other states say, we'll give you permissions in so and so date, a single window policy or whatever. But Telangana state government particularly said, once a company or a firm applies for a permission, within 15 days, if the state government can't give you a permission, then you are deemed to have gotten a permission. It is a right of an industrialist, either a man or a woman or a foreign country or a policy or a firm that comes into India to invest. So as a right, now we are trying to give permissions to the companies. So moving from a position of government being in a controlling position, we are slowly giving the control to the business people because we want to trust our entrepreneurs, we want to trust our industrialists because for India, for Telangana to go ahead, move forward, I believe industrialization has to happen and at a very serious pace it has to happen. And particularly when we speak about women entrepreneurs, we already have certain benefits for women entrepreneurs, but women-related industries like garments or textiles or any other industries, especially schools, colleges also, particular importance is given to women entrepreneurs. That is what is the essence of the policy. But of course, the solar policy also has come out and it is also a very interesting area for most of the entrepreneurs to look at.
How to work towards the cleanliness and Swachhta?
Swachhta as charity also, should begin at home. Because हम पूरा कचरा अपने घर से निकाल के बाजू वाले के घर के सामने डाल देते हैं, तो it doesn't help anybody. But governments, how much ever they can do, both the central and state governments are trying their best to popularize this slogan of a clean and green India that we are working on. But whatever governments do is, to impose certain things. Imposing never works with people. So it has to come from within, it has to come from the people. Governments, of course, are enabling more policies, trying to have a plantation drive also, like never before. The Chief Minister himself gave about 10 days times to go around all the districts to make sure people, look more towards plantation or the greenery, improving the green cover of the state. Similar thing with the Swachh Telangana and Swachh Hyderabad initiative. He's been to 2, 3, 4 places to make sure works happen there. But then, it is not an easy thing. Now with the entire GHMC crew on strike and on roads, Hyderabad ka Swachhta to bahut piche. I'm sorry? Definitely. We are trying to sort it out. But what the employees are asking about is also quite... Employees certainly know, employees certainly know when to get things out of a government. So when you announce a beautiful program, they want to stall it and, they know our pain point, which is good in a way. They want to be heard. We understand that. But this being a very just and a very open government, which has increased the salaries by almost 2-fold, we don't mind heeding to reasonable demands. We are talking it. Most probably we'll solve it soon.
Hi Kavitha, I just want to know कि will ever a woman, a common woman or a man will get an opportunity to join political party or a cabinet, or always it will be a background of political party, like political background? That's what is my question.
Yeah, world over it has been the phenomena, unfortunately. Somebody gets an opportunity because they have their father or mother or whoever in politics. And particularly in the entire South Asia, if you look at it, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, wherever you see, it is all family driven politics. Their father was in politics, so the daughter is now the PM. Now my father was in politics, so I got access to this position. But then there is also this situation where very rarely women have come up. I don't see a very bright opportunities or a bright spot where many more women will come up. But with reservations, if we can make sure, because at the ground 50% reservations are bringing common and educated, particularly women into politics. So maybe a 33% reservation for both MLA and MP seats will bring about more women who are not at all related to the political families. But then again, having said that, I would say being from a political family will probably earn you a seat, but it won't help you in getting elected. As long as you perform, you get elected and re-elected and re-elected. But if you don't perform, they'll throw you out. There are many examples where serious politicians came in, but their successors came in but never succeeded, unfortunately. So I hope someday women who are not at all related to anything, any family will come into politics. When it comes to parliament and voting, ma'am, there is no men-women difference. There is only party difference. Whatever party says, men or women in that party has to just follow. So it is the political parties that have to take a call on, voting or supporting this bill. So as long as the women organizations can pressure these political parties into taking a decision and voting for the women reservation bill, I think the job will be done. It is not men or women. Doesn't matter anymore in parliament. Absolutely not, ma'am. A party takes a decision, man or woman, he has to follow. So the political parties and party heads have to take a call on that. I see that bill happening. I hope so. I really hope so. And in fact, there was this debate. Why 33%? Why not 50%? So it depends. If we can push it to 50, nothing like it.
Hello, ma'am. I just had a question. Like we read and hear a lot about toddy being legalized and licenses being levied to all the grassroots people. Will it not affect the women at the grassroots levels if more men go into drinking? I mean, we had prohibition for such a long time in the state, and to protect the women at the grassroots levels.
Toddy or no toddy, rural men were anyway drinking, because today in every village there are, if not more than one, at least one belt shops which are supposed to be operating out of those small little provisional stores of the village, and they sell very cheap liquor which is absolutely unhealthy. And also there is this huge liquor that is manufactured in the village level which had killed a lot of people. So government had thought about it very seriously, and when compared to this kind of liquor, toddy is much more healthier. Toddy is a natural, byproduct of the plants. So that is why toddy was introduced. And of course, toddy being a employment source also, government had to think in those lines. Now there is a serious debate on also introducing a legalized liquor which is much more at a lower price by the government, because there is very serious deaths, and in some areas, I don't know if you have ever visited any thandas, which you call, these ST thandas, more than 50% of the women below 30 years old are widows now, because men have drunk so much and they are not alive anymore. And especially in the areas, agency areas of Warangal, Mahbubnagar, it is a huge problem. So the government is rethinking about the liquor policy as well.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Kavitha too, coincidentally. My question is a personal one. I just wanted to ask, my kids go to the same school as yours, and I got to know that you're a very involved mother. So I just wanted to check how you're balancing your personal life and wading through the murky waters of politics. How did you adjust? I think this is a relatively, recent development in your life of politics, a few years.
8 years or 9 years I have been in public life, not in politics directly, but I was running my NGO, which was also politically active because of the Telangana agitation and the movement. So I have been away from home for quite some time. My kids from a very young age. My second son was born and I was out in people, so hardly any time I could give him. the younger one. I got used to it in these 8-9 years, of course, but then it is, as you said, very painful, very difficult. And when they cry, it makes it all the more difficult to, leave them and go. But what to do? This is the path I've chosen, and so I'm carrying on. And schools, I have a serious complaint about the schools, okay? They call me for a parent-teacher meeting every week. I said, यार तुम मुझे इतने बार बुलाओगे तो तुम्हारा क्या काम है, what are you supposed to do? And I gave them a piece of my mind one day. I said, once in a month is fine, but not every week. I can't make it. So then they started calling me once in a month, which is okay. I try and find time and go there. I try to be as involved as possible, but it is difficult, as you know. Particularly women education is one thing I was very interested in. I still am, but educating women from a very poor background is quite a task. Because there are many NGOs who try and get these young women to join school. Till 7th, 8th, you can manage and keep them inside. But once they grow, they want to either get them married or, poor infrastructure in the schools. Whatever we did in the past 60 years somehow did not suffice to, have a good infrastructure in the schools. So they drop out of because of that. And junior colleges, if a girl comes to a junior college, same problem again. They have to travel from their village 20 kilometers to the Mandal headquarters to come to a junior college. So they drop out there. So every point, every serious turn in the education, there is a heavy possibility of women dropping out. And when they drop out of school, it is, again the same menace of child marriage, dowry, early pregnancy, maternal death. Everything follows because they drop out of the schools. So to keep that very tightly controlled is not in one person's hand. It has to be the whole system working together. This, of course, now we are trying to do with the KG to PG initiative, where we want to give a compulsory education for every child in the state, male and female, starting from KG to PG. This is not even in the US, where they only pay up to your 10th or 12th standard, I believe, for education. So they were also very surprised and impressed by this initiative. If that comes in place, I'm sure the rest of the things that follow, negative things, will all be taken care of.
To sum it all up, what are the qualities you feel go into making a woman as a complete leader? Or what do you think every woman should imbibe if she sees herself as a leader in the future?
Women, I believe, by birth is a leader, because, we know what to take care and how to take care of our house, our kids, our families, husbands. We balance so many things very efficiently. And sincerely balancing a constituency is no different. You just have to take care of everybody, that's all. That we know by birth. We just have to try and do it on a bigger level. But getting an opportunity to be in that position is a challenge. And how does the women reach out and grab that opportunity is a big question. But otherwise, once you are an MP, I'm sure you will do a much, much better job than most of the MPs who were there. So it is no different, only as managing it. Every woman, I believe, is a leader by birth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
May I request our chairperson, Samia Alam Khan, to kindly present the memento and gift to our guest, Ms. Kavitha Kalvakuntla.
On behalf of the Young FICCI Ladies Organization and our members, I sincerely thank you for taking your time out and giving us such invaluable experience. I would like to offer a very special thanks to the governing body, the past YFLO and FLO chairpersons for gracing the event with their presence. I would like to thank all our members for being here today. A very special thanks to the press and the media for coming today and supporting us continuously. I would like to thank Park Hyatt for hosting us today in all our events. Heartfelt gratitude to our event sponsors, Gokul Gems and Jewels Private Limited, House of Activis. Thank you all once again, and please join us for high tea.